There are places in this world that leave you speechless, places that feel almost too beautiful to be real. China is full of them. From colorful mountains to hidden villages, here's a look at some of the most beautiful places to visit across China. It's one of the most famous structures in the world, and for good reason. The Great Wall of China stretches across mountains, deserts, and rolling hills for thousands of kilometers. But seeing it in person is a completely different experience. The scale of it is hard to describe until you're standing on it, looking out over the ridgelines. Some sections, like Badaling, are fully restored and easy to walk. Others, like Jiankou or Gubeikou, are more wild and crumbling, with fewer tourists and way more atmosphere. Early mornings or late afternoons are the best times to visit. The light is soft, the crowds are thin, and the wall seems to stretch endlessly into the distance. It's not just a wall, it's a journey through time and through some of the most dramatic scenery in northern China. If this place looks familiar, it's probably because it inspired the floating mountains in the movie Avatar. Zhangjiajie is famous for its giant stone pillars that rise straight up from the ground, wrapped in mist and forest. The entire area feels like stepping into another world. There are trails and walkways that wind through the park, some that cling to the edges of cliffs with nothing but glass beneath your feet. The views from the top are unreal. Layers of sandstone towers, green forests, and deep valleys that disappear into the fog. Take the cable car up Tianmen Mountain, walk across the glass skywalk, and just take it all in. It's one of the most surreal landscapes in all of China. In the south of China, the landscape starts to feel more gentle. The sharp peaks of the karst mountains rise straight out of wide green fields, and calm rivers wind their way through it all. Right in the middle of this scenery is Yangshuo. Getting there is one of the most beautiful trips you can take in China. Along the way, you'll pass small villages, water buffalo standing in the shallows, and tall limestone peaks that reflect in the water like a mirror. When you reach Yangshuo, everything slows down. You can rent a bike, ride through the countryside, and just take it all in. It's quiet, peaceful, and full of charm. Known for its twisted pine trees, jagged granite cliffs, and rolling seas of clouds, Huangshan is one of the most photographed and painted mountain ranges in the country. But no photo really captures the feeling of being there. Climb the stone steps carved into the mountain, stand on a peak as the clouds pour in below, and breathe in the fresh air. It's easy to see why poets and painters have been coming here for centuries. The landscapes are dramatic and peaceful at the same time. Sunrises here are worth waking up early for. The way the first light hits the peaks is unforgettable. Up in the mountains of Sichuan, Jiuzhaigou is a fairy tale made real. The water here is insanely clear, turquoise, blue, and green, and the forests that surround the lakes change with every season. In autumn, the colors explode. In winter, everything's covered in snow and ice. Wooden walkways take you around waterfalls, streams, and still pools that reflect the trees like mirrors. It's quiet, protected, and feels like stepping into a secret world. Out in Gansu province, the landscape takes a sharp turn into color. The Rainbow Mountains are layers of red, orange, yellow, and sometimes even purple, all stacked in waves that roll across the land. This isn't painted, it's all natural, created over millions of years by wind, water, and time. When the sun hits the hills at sunset, the colors glow. It feels otherworldly, like walking through a science fiction set made of stone. The best time to visit is late afternoon or after a rain, when the colors are brightest. Up in western China, the Himalayas stretch across the landscape with some of the most dramatic views you'll ever see. There's a quiet here that feels almost spiritual. Snowy mountains behind clear blue lakes, prayer flags moving in the wind, and old monasteries built into cliffs. In places like western Sichuan and Qinghai, small towns sit below huge mountains. Roads wind through high valleys, yaks graze under the wide open sky, and far off in the distance, peaks like Everest rise above the clouds. It's not the easiest part of China to get to, but once you're there, it makes a real impact. The space, the silence, and the sheer size of it all, it stays with you. Just outside Lijiang in Yunnan, Jade Dragon Snow Mountain rises sharply from the earth. The peaks stay snow-covered most of the year, and clouds often wrap around the summits. A cable car takes you partway up, where wooden paths lead across a snowy landscape. Even in warmer months, the air is crisp. Below, at Blue Moon Valley, a river flows through white limestone, creating pools of soft blue water surrounded by forest. The whole scene feels fresh and clean, with dramatic contrasts everywhere you look. East of Suzhou, Zhouzhuang is one of China's most beautiful and best-preserved water towns. Canals wind through the town like streets, lined with old stone bridges and whitewashed buildings topped with dark tile roofs. Life moves slowly here. Boats glide under arched bridges. Locals sell vegetables from wooden stalls, and red lanterns sway above narrow lanes. Some of the houses here are centuries old, with carved wooden doors and quiet courtyards. It's peaceful, traditional, and full of detail. In the mountains of Yunnan, the Yuanyang rice terraces stretch across the hills like giant steps carved into the earth. Built by the Han people over centuries, these terraces follow the land's curves with incredible precision and beauty. When filled with water, they reflect the sky, turning sunrise and sunset into something magical. In spring, they shine like mirrors. In summer, they turn lush green. And in autumn, they glow golden under the sun. It's a landscape that changes with the seasons and always leaves an impression. High in the Tian Shan Mountains of Xinjiang, Nalati Grassland stretches out in wide, green waves. In summer, wildflowers bloom across the meadows, and herds of horses run freely under the open sky. Yurts dot the landscape, and the local Kazakh people still follow traditional ways of life here. The air is fresh, the land feels endless, and the mountains rise in the distance like a painting. It's one of the most peaceful and open landscapes in China, a place where nature feels vast and wild. On the Yellow River, where the water narrows between steep cliffs, Hukou Waterfall roars to life. It's the largest waterfall on the river, and one of the most powerful sights in northern China. The muddy water crashes down in a thundering drop, sending up clouds of mist and foam. In winter, parts of it freeze into wild shapes. In spring, it surges with force. The name Hukou means mouth of a teapot, and when you see it pour over the edge, you'll understand why. It's raw, dramatic, and unforgettable. Up in China's far northwest, near the borders with Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and Russia, lies Kanas Lake. It's deep, dark blue in places, almost turquoise in others, surrounded by forests and snow-capped peaks. The area feels completely untouched. The trees change color in autumn, and reflections ripple across the lake's surface. Few people make it out this far, which makes it even more special. The landscapes are pristine, and the silence is complete. Tucked into the hills of Hunan Province, Fenghuang is one of China's most atmospheric old towns. Wooden houses stand on stilts above the river. Red lanterns line the streets, and arched stone bridges cross the water like something from a dream. The town comes alive at night, lights reflecting in the river, music drifting from tea houses, and people strolling along the banks. It's a mix of history, culture, and quiet charm. Every corner feels like a painting, and every alley tells a story. Near Kunming in Yunnan Province, the stone forest is exactly what it sounds like. Thousands of tall, jagged limestone rocks that rise from the ground like trees. It looks like a frozen battlefield made of stone. Walking through the narrow paths, the rocks tower over you, twisting into strange shapes. Some sections are quiet and open, while others feel like mazes. The formations are ancient, sculpted by wind and rain over millions of years. In certain spots, there are small ponds, wooden bridges, and lookout towers where you can see how far the stone forest spreads. It's an unusual but striking natural wonder. In the countryside of Guangdong, the Kaiping Diaolou rise above the rice fields like watchtowers from another time. These fortified buildings were built by overseas Chinese in the early 1900s, a mix of Western and Chinese styles, with balconies, domes, and towers. Scattered across small villages, they were once used for protection during unrest, but today they stand as silent reminders of a unique cultural blend. Some are grand and castle-like, others simple and weathered, but each one tells a story. China's landscapes include lush forests and high peaks, but also dry, wide deserts. The Gobi stretches across the northern part of the country, and while it's rugged, it's also stunning in its own way. Sand dunes roll into the distance, shaped by the wind into sharp lines and curves. There are rocky canyons, flat plains, and areas where wild camels still roam. In places like Dunhuang, you can find massive sand dunes right next to ancient Buddhist caves carved into the cliffs. Sunrise and sunset turn the desert gold and pink. At night, the stars go on forever. It's quiet, endless, and full of space. Nestled in a volcanic crater in the Tian Shan Mountains, Heaven Lake lives up to its name. The water is clear and blue, surrounded by forested slopes and snowy peaks. It sits at high altitude, and the air is cool even in summer. On calm days, the surface reflects the sky so perfectly it's hard to tell where the water ends. In winter, it freezes over completely, turning into a wide sheet of white under the mountains. The area around the lake is peaceful and full of open space, a perfect place to pause and take in the quiet beauty. Rising above the city of Lhasa, the Potala Palace is one of the most iconic landmarks in all of China. With its white walls, red towers, and golden rooftops, it looks like it was carved into the mountain itself. Once the home of the Dalai Lama, it's a place filled with history, silence, and reverence. Inside are winding staircases, sacred halls, and thousands of statues and murals. From the top, the view stretches across the rooftops of Lhasa and out toward the mountains. Even from a distance, the Potala has a presence, grand, still, and unforgettable. Right on the border between China and Vietnam, Detian Waterfall is wide, powerful, and framed by lush green hills. It's not just one drop, it's a collection of cascading falls that thunder into a jade-colored pool below. Bamboo rafts float at the base, giving a close-up view of the spray and sound. The whole area is surrounded by sharp karst peaks and thick jungle, making it feel almost tropical. On misty days, everything fades slightly into the fog, and the sound of the water becomes even more dramatic. And there you have it. China is full of surprises. This country holds some of the most beautiful and unexpected landscapes in the world. There's always something new around the corner, and we've only just scratched the surface. If you enjoyed this journey, hit subscribe for more travel videos like this. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.